All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jake, you're going to very with you. We got a lot of papers. We got a lot of stories today. I'm so excited. Okay, we got special surprises. We got Thanksgiving specials. Are you crazy? We got a lot of amazing stuff for you guys today. Okay, down goes Ivanka. Lock her up. Lock her. All right, we're gonna have a little disagreement about that.
A little debate action.
There's gonna be a little curveball there. Okay, another curveball. I defend another conservative point of view a little bit later in the program. There's curveballs everywhere, but the biggest curveball of all is you. No, I'm kidding. Is the Thanksgiving special that we're putting out right after the show today. We got 3 hours. We will be giving thanks to you guys randomly, personal stories. I got a great chicken and waffle story. Anyway, but excuse me. Here's the important part. I believe at the top of that show, although I'm so anxious, I might do it earlier. I might do it in the middle of this show. We've got a special surprise for the mainstream media. Hey, don't worry. It's a gift. Literally, hold for the surprise. Sharing is caring. I need you to share the stream. I need you to like this stream. It makes a big difference if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Okay, but I'm not done yet. We got a lot of great stories, but hold one more second, okay? Because apparently I have to drink water. Today is day 7 of Black Friday, 10 days of Black Friday. If you're thinking it's not day 7 of Black Friday, it hasn't even happened yet. Wrong! It started 10 days ago if you're part of TYT, but this is back, and this is important. People love this. I don't know why we have such trouble making it, but it always sells out immediately, and then it takes us like 6 months to remake them. Anyway, TYT hats are back, okay? If you like Mark Thompson's look, when he's on the air, these are awesome hats. I love these. I'm gonna wear it even over my Rams hat, despite yesterday. Anyway, so shoptyt.com, but also today is Giving Tuesday, so give the gift of TYT.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about giving the gift of TYT. Oh, you don't like that I'm interrupting you, right? Because I'm about to interrupt you. And no, don't go to tyt.com/gift. Go to tyt.com/Anna. Look, Jake is catching up to me. You can go to gift too if you want, to be fair, but don't.
No.
Listen, you guys need to understand something. This is very important. This is very important.
Very
okay?
important.
Now, you wouldn't know it through the way that we communicate with one another or the way that Cenk carries himself on the show. But Cenk is actually my boss, believe it or not. And so as a result, we really got to stick it to the man. And the only way we can do it is if we need to get together, all right? And please become a member under the URL tyt.com/Anna. I'm still beating Cenk, but I have gotten word today from anonymous sources, people who wish to remain off the record, that Cenk is catching up to me very quickly.
So here's what I have to say about that. Fake news. There are no such things as anonymous sources, although sometimes there are.
The leaks.
Okay, tyt.com/Cenk's obviously the right way to sign up. But that, Anna,
stick it to the man.
That's awkward, by the way.
He might be progressive. He might be, he's very progressive, but still, he's still a boss. He's still a CEO. Let's show these CEOs who's boss, who's really boss.
Okay, all right. So listen, she's so carried away, but she went in the wrong direction. tyt.com/gift is not for you to sign up. It's to give a gift to someone else during the holiday season. So you actually, this one. So a lot of times members already.
He didn't communicate that to me ahead of time.
Yeah.
He's a poor communicator, okay?
Right,
He's the leader of this company and a poor communicator.
Right. Or perhaps if you weren't so busy bashing your boss, you would have paid attention.
I wasn't bashing you. I just like to speak truth to power.
Okay, look, we got to get going on the news. But seriously, if there's someone in your family or someone you know that either is a progressive and would love to hear the message, or is not so progressive and you think could be influenced by the message, or just needs to see the facts or our side, so then send them a gift at tyt.com/gift, and that is part of our 10 days of Black Friday, so we appreciate it. Okay, we do have that giant surprise coming up for you later, but let's get going on the news. What's next, Anna?
All right. Donald Trump published a statement in response to Saudi Arabia and recent news indicating that the CIA investigation into Jamal Khashoggi's murder found that the Saudis were in fact behind it, and that the Saudi royal prince was also behind it. But it appears that through Trump's statement, the White House is not planning any significant punishment or consequences toward the Saudis. And I'm going to give you the most relevant parts of his statement, although I do encourage you to read the whole thing for yourselves. Now, it begins with one sentence, one very simple sentence, a fear-mongering sentence, and it goes like this: "The world is a very dangerous place."
Yeah, we know that because one of your buddies just chopped someone up and put them in the luggage and carried their body parts out of one airport and into another. So that's the whole point. The world's a very dangerous place, brought to you by you and your allies, and you're about to let them get away with it.
He continues to write, and let me just note, there were exclamation marks throughout his statement. "We may never know all of the facts surrounding the murder of Mr. Jamal Khashoggi. In any case, our relationship is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia." Now, let me be clear for anyone who may have missed details to this story. Jamal Khashoggi was living in the United States. He had left Saudi Arabia out of fear of his own life, for his own life, and he was a journalist for the Washington Post, and he was murdered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and his body was dismembered using a bone saw.
So a couple of things here. One, on the exclamation points, it's clear Trump wrote this. Poor grammar throughout, which I found to be very interesting because this is an important foreign policy decision, and you would think that normally associates of the president would write this out, and then he would edit it, like Reagan would edit his the speeches that were given to him or the statements that were given to him. And it's not like Obama and the other Democratic presidents wrote out everything by themselves either. You know, there's thousands of people who work at the White House. The only reason why I'm telling you that is either he thought, nah, I don't need anybody. I can run this whole country by myself, which is a preposterous thing to think, or people were reluctant to write this, saying, it's okay to kill and dismember a journalist, right? So he then might have said, screw it, I'm writing it, give it to me, okay, I'll write it. World is dangerous place, exclamation park. Park.
That sounds fun, exclamation park.
Yeah, that does, that sounds like a fun place. Right next to the amusement park is the exclamation park.
Yeah.
The only place it's not fun is when Trump shows up. Anyway, so overall though, him saying basically, look, our relationship is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Well, but who runs that kingdom? Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, who according to our intelligence agencies did order this assassination. So it is not unclear.
He continues to write, the United States intends to remain a steadfast partner of Saudi Arabia to ensure the interests of our country, Israel, and all other partners in the region. So let me explain that a little further. Trump does see Saudi Arabia as an integral part of his foreign policy, especially in response to Iran. So one of the main reasons why we are fighting this war with Saudi Arabia in Yemen is because of Iran's involvement. It is essentially a proxy war. Syria was also a proxy war, but we're seeing this similar pattern play out in Yemen. And so Trump thinks that, hey, I gotta work with the Saudis to carry out my harsh foreign policy toward Iran, but that is really not the heart of the matter here. The main priority is the financial interests that the United States has, and more importantly, the financial interests that Trump specifically has. And to be clear, he also did talk about how Khashoggi's crime was a bad thing, but then doubled down on how he wants to remain friends with the Saudis. He wrote, the crime against Jamal Khashoggi was a terrible one and one that our country does not condone. Indeed, we have taken strong action against those already known to have participated in the murder. And if you want to know what that strong action is, he noted that we have already sanctioned 17 Saudis known to have been involved in the murder. Now, the crown prince is not facing any consequences, and sanctions, what good are sanctions gonna do against 17 people in Saudi Arabia? Oh, they're not gonna be able to come to the US, who cares? They're not gonna be able to do business with US businesses, but it doesn't really send a strong message to the Saudis.
Well, he said it's a terrible crime and we're not condoning it. No, this whole letter is condoning it. That's the whole point of this letter, is to say, don't worry, Crown Prince bin Salman, we're not going to do anything about it. Anything. The 17 sanctions guys who were sanctioned, I mean, it's such a tragic story, but it's borderline hilarious. All right, you know what? That team of assassins, we're not letting them into the country. Wow. Very, very bold. I didn't know you were going to go that strong. Yeah, of course we're not letting the assassins into the country, right? And we won't do any more business with the assassins. Wow. Okay, man, I didn't know you were that strong. Okay, now I got to do a little told you here. The very first day, and I told you throughout, that at the end of the day, I thought Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia would get away with it for a number of reasons, but one of them I said was Israel. Israel is allies with Saudi Arabia, and they are united against Iran. Israel is working with the Sunnis against the Shia, represented by Iran, and Trump is not a sophisticated guy, so he just says it, right? Instead of couching it in terms of, oh no, it's our priorities, etc. And he did mention some of that later, but he blurts out right in the beginning, Israel. Israel is in favor of it.
I don't think that that's even something that he would need to hide because it's an unpopular opinion. You see what I'm saying?
No, it's not an unpopular opinion, but it's an uncouth opinion. What I mean by that is, it's in Washington, if you say Israel, everybody goes, yes, right away, sir, absolutely, sir, right? But you're not supposed to say as president of the United States, I'm doing this for another country.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do see what you're saying.
And you're not supposed to say it's because of me either. And those are the two principal reasons.
So he also talks about his love for the Saudi royals, writing King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman vigorously deny any knowledge of the murder of Mr. Khashoggi. It could very well be that Crown Prince had knowledge of this tragic event. Maybe he did, and maybe he didn't.
Who writes that? Which president writes, maybe he did, and maybe he didn't, exclamation mark. Right?
Okay.
His statements, to be fair, are an exclamation mark. They're full of exclamation points.
That was yet another example of him saying two things at once in order to cover all his bases. He knows that the Crown Prince was very well aware of this and very likely ordered this execution, and he wants to cover himself by saying two things at once in this one particular part of his statement. Then he gets into the financial interests, which I had alluded to earlier, and mentions a bunch of numbers that don't really make much sense. So he says the kingdom agreed to spend and invest $450 billion in the United States. It will create hundreds of thousands of jobs, tremendous economic development, and much additional wealth for the United States. He continues to write, and here's where he gets a little more specific and more confusing. Of the $450 billion, $110 billion will be spent on the purchase of military equipment from Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and many other great US defense contractors. So let's stop for a second. In other words, these deals are not about helping you, Americans. These deals are about helping weapons contractors, military contractors, the very people who have encouraged us and successfully pushed us toward unnecessary wars, essentially costing the lives of countless military members, trillions of US taxpayer money. I mean, it's just, you're right in that there's a level of transparency here, right? I don't care about Raytheon, I don't care about Boeing. I would argue most Americans who are struggling right now don't care about that. And the journalists who might be concerned about their lives moving forward in the future when they want to do, foreign reporting, probably also don't care about the profit motive of Raytheon and Boeing.
Yeah, see, this is what I mean by he's too stupid to know how to even lie properly. So you're supposed to say you're doing it for the troops. You're not supposed to actually say, oh yeah, I'm doing it for my donors, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing. Those are not necessarily popular names in America. So if you work for one of those companies, okay, yeah, you want more contracts. Sometimes you build wonderful things like satellites that get us information, etc., passenger planes, and sometimes you build war machines that get people killed by a horrible dictatorial regime like Saudi Arabia. But it's not a thing that's like incredibly popular for, like, hey, everybody, let's go do this for Lockheed Martin. But he's too stupid to realize you're not supposed to write that down, so he does. Now, speaking of the outrageous lies, the $450 billion that Saudi Arabia is theoretically giving us. So we did research because we're like, wait, I never read that. And I'm like, with Trump, you have to dig further because you're like, what is he basing the lie on? Like, is there even a strand of like, oh, once they said that over the course of a decade or 2 decades, they would spend half a trillion dollars or something, right? No, nothing. He just pulled it out of thin air. Several organizations, press organizations have already looked into the number. They're like, where is he getting this from? Made up out of whole cloth. Saudi Arabia has never promised to give us $450 billion. They've never promised to spend that money here. Out of the $110 billion that's supposed to go to the beloved Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and the defense contractors, actually $14.5 billion was already promised before Trump, and that is being spent. That's true. The other $110 billion, they actually haven't spent it, and there are no contracts for it. So it's only $14.5 billion out of the $450 billion that Trump lied about. I mean, he's just such a monstrous liar. You don't know what to do with a guy like this.
So hasn't Saudi Arabia actually benefited more from the United States and the amount of support we give them, especially when it comes to their military efforts in Yemen? I mean, how much have we spent in taxpayer money in giving them intelligence and giving them support?
It's actually way worse than that. This is the kind of thing that Donald Trump, if he wasn't so biased because of his own personal financial interest, would say is totally unfair, ridiculously unfair. Saudi Arabia, honestly, would not exist without us. Why do I say that? Saddam Hussein rolled into Kuwait and took it in about 3.5 minutes. And it looked like he was gonna roll into Saudi Arabia and take that. This is back in the early 1990s, the first Persian Gulf War. And we came in and saved the kingdom. We saved Saudi Arabia. Saddam would have definitely taken Saudi Arabia, and it would have taken him about a week to do so. Their incompetent, pathetic military couldn't have stood a chance against Saddam Hussein. And we did Operation, Liberate XYZ, made up name, etc. And we did bring Kuwait back to the dictators of Kuwait, and we let Saudi Arabia still be ruled by these monsters. So you want to talk about unfair? They should give us $500 billion. We saved their ass, but they're not going to. The only thing they did was they bought $14.5 billion of weaponry and that they're dropping on innocent civilians in Yemen. So that's what happened.
And so right now, for those of you who don't care about Yemen, and I know we don't have monsters watching the show, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we have people hate watching. Either way, we're selling weapons to people who could potentially and very likely be our enemies in the future. Right? I mean, this is a US foreign policy pattern. We've done this before, we're doing it again. And so why? Why are we doing this? Is it actually benefiting us as US taxpayers? No, it's actually a giant liability in the future. And the only people who are enriching themselves through these arms deals are the very people that Trump listed in his statement. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, they're the ones making all this money through the weapons deals.
Yeah, and so last couple of things on that. Everything he said about Iran in the beginning of the statement is actually a projection about Saudi Arabia. He said that Iran is doing a bloody proxy war against Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Well, at a bare minimum, they're both doing it, but Saudi Arabia is the one that actually started it. Saudi Arabia is doing a proxy war against Iran in Yemen. It's the opposite of what Trump said. And they said they're trying to destabilize Iraq's fragile attempt at democracy. No, Iran actually helped to stabilize Iraq. You know why? Because they're smart and they're like, hey, that's 60% Shia country. We're Shia, they're Shia. Their democracy would be naturally aligned with us. Thanks a lot, idiot Americans, for giving us a massive ally in the Middle East that did not exist before. And whereas Saudi Arabia spent billions of dollars funding a Sunni insurgency against us and Iraq at that time. One last quote in that regard, Trump said, additionally, Saudi Arabia has agreed to spend billions of dollars in leading the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. Well, they'd have to lead the fight that they started in the first place. 15 out of the 19 hijackers are Saudis, and they started the Sunnis, or they helped the Sunni insurgency in Iraq and killed so many of our troops, so many of our citizens. And now he has the audacity to turn around and say, oh, so what? Did this fundamentalist Muslim government beheaded someone, tortured him, dismembered him, and chopped him up, put him in luggage, and carried him through the airport. But now the last thing, not having to do with Iran and the proxy wars, is about us. He said in the middle of the letter, representatives of Saudi Arabia say that Jamal Khashoggi was an enemy of the state.
Yeah.
Wait. So you're using that as justification, and you at the same time call our media the enemy of the people. Almost the same exact phrase. So you're saying it's okay for a government to chop up people they call enemy of the state that are actually journalists, like Khashoggi was. He worked for the Washington Post. They beheaded him. And you're saying, well, I mean, the Saudis call him enemy of the state. And then you turn around and call other Washington Post reporters and other American reporters enemy of the people. Jesus Christ, that is incredibly dangerous. And he put this out there with a straight face, like, who cares? I'm gonna make money. All my friends are gonna make money. You kill journalists any way you like. And saying we don't condone it. This whole letter is condoning that beheading and dismemberment. That's who Donald Trump is. Money above all, especially Donald Trump's money.
Yeah, how does that liberty and freedom feel for you now? All you right-wingers who voted for him thinking that he would actually expand your freedoms. He's done the exact opposite.
And all the right-wingers who always talk about freedom of speech, they're big proponents of freedom of speech. Here's a member of the press who was speaking out against a dictatorial fundamentalist Muslim government and got beheaded for it. I mean, this is not, hey, I couldn't speak at Berkeley and I couldn't get a speaking fee. The guy got beheaded for speaking out against a terrible tyrannical government that you claim you're against. And your dear leader just said, it's okay, who cares, we're making money. Behead anyone you like, free speech, I don't care at all. Freedom of the press, First Amendment, I don't care at all. So are you guys all speaking out against it, right-wingers? No, because you don't care about freedom of speech at all. It's just a punchline for you.
Let's take a break. When we come back, a little bit of good news coming from a federal judge, and also what's the update on that migrant caravan that's supposed to be infesting our country?
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Great member comments here. Ronan 1 says, right-wingers say that Obama went on an apology tour with our allies in Europe and the Pacific. Meanwhile, Trump goes on an ass-kissing tour to Russia and Saudi Arabia. God, that's such a great point. You want to talk about an apology tour? He's, basically apologizing for our relationship with Saudi, like for the Saudis dismembering someone. And he's like, let's just forgive it. Let's just apologize,
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
It's even worse than that. He's just straight up lying about what the CIA found in their investigations of that murder. He's just lying about it. We can't be surprised.
Yeah. So look, this is very complicated, but Anova writes in, Trump's statement about affecting the global economy regarding Saudi Arabia is unfortunately true. The prince can wake up and flip from the petrodollar to the petro-yuan end of the American empire. So that's way more complicated and requires a lot more conversation, and maybe we'll do it in one of the post games for you guys. Because yes, there is some truth to the fact that the petrodollar is very important to not only the global economy, but to our economy. But we have enormous leverage over Saudi Arabia. Like I said, they wouldn't even exist without us. If we pulled away our protection from Saudi Arabia, they'd last about a month, okay? Almost anyone can walk in and take that country. So anyway, that's a longer story. Look, the surprise that I told you guys about at the beginning of the show, I can't wait. Okay, so I don't think we're gonna wait till the Thanksgiving special. Next segment, we're gonna announce it. Okay.
Yeah, you do it right now.
Next segment. I'm gonna
next
jump
segment.
the gun.
Okay.
So, by the way, if you don't get the whole show, we're on a lot of different platforms, and people get different portions of the show. tyt.com/join to become a member and get all of our programming, including this entire show, every single day. Another way you can get that, of course, is tyt.com/janked. Okay, what's next?
All right. There was one other element to the Khashoggi story that I wanted to get to. Following Donald Trump's official statement indicating that the Saudi royals will not face any punishment for their part in the murder of a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, Mike Pompeo had a press conference and was asked about the statement released by Trump. Here's what he had to say.
The president said today, the United States will continue to have a relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're an important partner of ours. By the way, this is a long, historic commitment and one that is absolutely vital to America's national security. We are determined to ensure that we continue to make sure that we take care of the American people in all of the strategic decisions we make.
So does the America First agenda mean putting US business interests ahead of human rights concerns?
There has been an enormous effort with respect to fact-finding with pertaining to the death, the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. A lot of US resources have been devoted to determining the facts to the best of our ability to determine precisely what happened there. The United States took a very strong response. We have sanctioned 17 individuals in connection with that investigation. We are at the same time committed to making sure that we place America's national security interests and all the actions that take place in the context of doing the right thing to make sure that America continues to thrive and grow.
That was amazing. I mean, Anna told me to watch for his body language before we watch the tape. He literally did this like, ay.
There's been a great effort in investigating. I mean, and then also at one point he just like nervously chuckled while he was reading the statement or saying whatever he was saying.
I've never seen Pompeo that nervous.
He looked uncomfortable.
Yeah, and so understand what he knows and we know now through reporting, but is not officially acknowledged, which is that the CIA and other intelligence officials have told Pompeo and Trump, yeah, the Crown Prince did it. It was him who ordered it. We have that on both reliable circumstantial evidence and the fact that we know that nothing gets done in Saudi Arabia of any import without the Crown Prince authorizing it. Now, Pompeo has to walk a line there. One day Trump will be gone and everyone will be held to account. And he can't say that the intelligence officials said that they weren't sure, because they were sure, and that's clearly what it says. On the other hand, if he dares say anything that's 1% off from Donald Trump, he risks getting fired and berated, and Trump coming out and going, I don't have a Secretary of State. He's not loyal to me. If I knew he wasn't gonna be loyal, I wouldn't have hired him, right? And then you're in the dustbin of history, you're no longer a congressman, you got no power, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why he comes out and he's like, well, you know, so it's important to our national security and we've had a long history with them. So wait, did they kill him? Did they order the killing? Right? No, they ordered the killing and he knows it. But his boss has made, and I got no love for Pompeo. I think he's a terrible guy. But in this case, Trump made the decision. And his boss told him, you go out there and tell him it's okay to behead a journalist. We're not going to do anything about it. So he goes out there and tells the press, if the Saudis behead you and dismember you, it depends on how much money we're making from them.
And
we'll probably let you get away with it.
He said it. I mean, look, he's only in a tough position because he's allowed himself to be in a tough position. He has his own free will. He doesn't need to go out there and just regurgitate what Trump tells him about the Saudis. He doesn't need to repeat the ridiculous narrative that, you know, the Crown Prince knew nothing about what happened. I mean, it's so stupid, but that's just what we have to deal with. I mean, these are the people who are supposed to be keeping the country safe. We had, again, a journalist living in the United States writing for the Washington Post who was murdered by the Saudis. But the government's not gonna do anything to punish the actual perpetrators of this.
Yeah, last thing is unprecedented. Now, if you're a journalist, man, if you walk into any embassy that pays Donald Trump a lot of money or that he thinks, I don't know if you really believe this or not, pays our defense contractors a lot of money or somehow makes money for the US. Again, I think it's mainly Trump's own personal financial interests. He got all those permits to do business in Saudi Arabia right before he was elected. That's not an accident. If he needs money later after he's president, which is very likely, who do you think he's gonna go to? So, but either way, whether it's US financial interests or Donald Trump's financial interests, or weapons contractors' financial interests, you walk into a wrong place and they murder you, they're probably gonna get away with it.
Yep. All right, let's pivot to some good news. A federal judge has ruled on whether or not Donald Trump can deny asylum to migrants who come into the country illegally. And that judge has decided that he's gonna go ahead and block Trump's efforts to ban these migrants from getting asylum. So the Justice Department and Department of Homeland Security previously had published a joint rule prohibiting certain people caught crossing the US southern border from Mexico between ports of entry from claiming asylum. Now, the way the law works right now, and I wanna make sure everyone's clear on this, we were a little unclear because it's a complicated law. Even if there is an undocumented individual in the country already, let's say someone came in with a tourist visa and then they overstayed their visa, then they get caught, they're still able to apply for asylum. They can claim to immigration officials that they are in fear of their lives or for their lives and they want to stay in the United States so they don't get targeted by whomever. And they will have the right to apply for asylum. Trump wanted to ban that from happening moving forward. So a federal judge comes in and says, no, you can't ban that. They have the right to seek asylum, they can apply. In fact, the judge, who was an Obama appointee, Judge John Tiger, says, whatever the scope of the president's authority, he may not rewrite the immigration laws to impose a condition that Congress has expressly forbidden. Asylum seekers will be put at increased risk of violence and other harms at the border, and many will be deprived of meritorious asylum claims. The government offers nothing in support of the new rule that outweighs the need to avoid these harms.
So there's two parts to this story. One is the logic behind the law, and the other is the fact that the law exists. So the logic behind it is, let's say that you're suffering persecution in a country, North Korea. You escape one of their detention camps, and they have millions of people locked up in those gulags, and you made it out of there somehow, and you got to the US. But you entered illegally. You didn't have the proper visa or the paperwork, whether you came on a plane or by foot, right? We don't just send you back and go, I'm sorry, you entered illegally, don't care. Go back to the gulag, right? Or you're in fear for your life from a fundamentalist government or a dictatorial government. Or like say, for example, Saudi Arabia is gonna behead you and dismember you and put you into a suitcase, okay? But you got here, but hey, you know what? Your papers aren't right or you crossed in the wrong part of the border, right? We don't send you back, we give you asylum normally. And there's good reason for that because that's the whole point of asylum isn't, hey, you get to stay here for no reason, or hey, you wanted a job, or you even wanted hope for your family. No, that doesn't count. Asylum is a technical definition. You're escaping from another country that is got oppressive conditions where your life is literally in danger, okay? Now whether you agree with that or not, and I guess there's some people immoral enough to say, yeah, I don't care if their life is in danger. I don't care about anything. I don't care if you're gonna send them back to a gulag. This is America and I don't like those people, right? For whatever reason, I don't like them, okay? I don't want them here. And yeah, okay, we saved his life, but then the guy might take my job. I don't want him, okay? Okay, you're that guy. But it doesn't matter. The law is the law. You didn't win on that. In a democracy, we have a system of government where Congress passes the laws, the president signs them, and then we abide by those laws. In fact, Donald Trump ran his campaign on the rule of law. Well, the judge here is pointing out the president can't unilaterally undo a law passed by Congress. That is the most elementary thing in our form of government. And the same right-wingers who said, I can't believe Obama's doing things through executive orders, are now turning around saying, who cares about the three branches of government and that Congress has to pass a law and the president can't just revoke a law. Who cares about the rule of law? I just don't like those people. So I just want to get rid of the law that clearly exists on the books,
right,
and have the president ignore it and, in essence, be a dictator who says, I don't care what your Congress passed. I will do whatever I like off the top of my head. Well,
right.
Here's the court system going, no, that's not how our government works.
And I think that this is important. This ruling was important in maintaining our democratic process, democratic system. So even if you don't care about the issue, as Cenk mentioned, in regard to immigration and whether or not we allow people to apply for asylum, really the heart of the matter here has to do with maintaining and preserving the way our government is supposed to work, the checks and balances and how they're supposed to protect citizens and protect laws that we currently have on the books. And so I like the fact that the judge really emphasized the importance of Congress, its role, and how Trump can't just come in and undo something unless there is an imminent threat to the United States if he does it in the name of national security. In this case, it was just a punitive action against people he doesn't like, and also an effort to gain brownie points among his base.
And to try to drive out the vote, et cetera.
Yeah.
Look, and last thing is that it's not that we don't get that it costs us money, it does. So, we're not naive thinking that everybody who crosses the border either through a port of entry or through a place that's not a port, it all deserve asylum. They don't. No, they don't. That's why we have a process where we adjudicate whether they actually do deserve asylum or not. And most people do not make it through that process and they are sent back. So yes, having that process costs us a little bit of money. But what it does is it preserves our dignity and America being a shining city on a hill, where if another government is trying to kill you or oppress you, for your religion, for your ethnicity, for anything else, for any other reason, for your political opinion, we will protect you, even though it costs us a little bit of money to do that. If we say, nah, we're throwing that in the garbage, we don't care anymore, it costs money, I don't want to do court cases to adjudicate things, judges, I don't like that. I'm just gonna say, send them all back, no matter what we're sending them back to. Okay, well then, your position is clear. I don't agree with it. The overwhelming majority of the American people don't agree with it. And your position at this point is irrelevant. You should lobby Congress to repeal that law. That's how this country works. And if you don't like it, ironically, you can get out.
When we come back from the break, we will talk about how Trump used nearly 6,000 members of the military for his own political gain and for his own advantage. We'll give you the details on that and more.
Yeah, so that story is amazing because of how brazen it is. But I kind of figured out why Trump does things that over the top brazen. I'm gonna explain that. And then I'm gonna jump the gun when we come back. I gotta tell you about the special surprise we have for the media. You don't wanna miss it. Share the stream, like the stream wherever you're watching, because this one's gonna be a doozy. We'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Got a huge show ahead for you guys today. You got the regular 2-hour show and then the Thanksgiving extravaganza starting in about an hour and 15 minutes. And we're gonna rotate all of our hosts through. But I can't help it. I'm gonna go right to our special announcement right now. So I wanna tell you guys about it. At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. So we've got a special announcement for you guys, and we think that it is a win-win, and it's a very unique program. So we're doing our membership drive and getting membership to all the people who are progressives, and some are even doing tyt.com/gift to give to people who are not progressives, so that we can get the message out. And then I was talking to a reporter the other day, and he said something that was interesting. He said, I said, why don't you cover honestly, progressive media, the progressive message, and us more? He said, it's not that you guys aren't interesting, you're super interesting, and it gets a lot of views online, but you're not in our regular routine. We just normally watch cable news, that's it. And then I had an idea. Well, if they don't have it in their regular routine, why don't we put it into their regular routine? So look, every once in a while I have these ideas, like when I announced my candidacy for the MSNBC spot, and people thought it was nuts, but you guys rallied and you sent so many emails and messages to MSNBC. I got that slot. We got that slot. We put our message out there until they tried to stop us, obviously. And so we're gonna launch a new program here. It's called tyt.com/amplify. So what we're gonna do is we're going to get sponsorships and memberships to TYT to the media. Now we're gonna do it in 3 different ways. And they're gonna cry about this. I mean the right wing. They're gonna say we're trying to influence the young. That is true, we are trying to influence the young. So in the first part of the program, if you buy packages under $1,000 in membership, we are going to give away Young Turks membership to journalism students. Well, that would influence the future of media. That's right, that's exactly what it would do, okay? So you can do $50, $150, and $1,000. You can do anything in between. You could buy multiples of membership. All of this is on tyt.com/amplify. But we take it and then we give it to those students at Columbia, Missouri, Northwestern, USC, all these wonderful journalism schools. And we're gonna do it through that program. By the way, if you give more than $150 or more, you're gonna get an exclusive TYT shirt that is designed for this campaign. Now, here comes the super interesting part. If you give $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000, we are going to send it to specific individuals in the media. So Wolf Blitzer is gonna get a package, Anderson Cooper, but this is the package of truth. It is TYT membership sponsored by you guys, so the media can no longer say, well, I don't know, we never heard that. Where are the progressive fighters? Where's the progressive message? We don't know. Well, you're gonna tell them, okay? So I think that it helps build home of progressives and gets a strong progressive message to all of the media. And then the final portion of it is, look, this is outlandish. I don't know if anybody will do it. In previous campaigns, you guys have been wonderful to us and have done it. But if you give more than $10,000, then to a college of your choice, we're gonna give free TYT membership for a year to those college students. So if you say, hey, I went to University of Michigan and I want to give $25,000 worth of membership to the people at the students at the University of Michigan, we're going to do that for you guys. Okay, all of this is through tyt.com/amplify. So and from $2,500 up, you're going to also get to name different things. For example, the chair I'm sitting on is the Nick Weil chair. This is the triptych desk that was named in previous campaigns before, but we are going to give away the naming rights to the studio overall, etc. I'll give you all the details as the campaign goes on, and it'll also be on the website. And so $150 gets you a free campaign t-shirt, $500 gets your name on the honor wall that we're going to put up on our website. $1,000 gets your name on the donor wall. We have a physical donor wall of you guys. We already had one from the first campaign we did. We're gonna put up a second one for this campaign. $2,500 and up gets to name a studio item. By the way, if you do anything above $150, the t-shirt's included in all of them. And so is the honor wall above $500, etc. And $10,000 gets to sponsor your college of your choice and also gets to name different things here in the TYT studios. And so we're gonna go, and here's the extra twist. We're gonna go one by one. So up first is Jake Tapper, okay? Jake has done some segments on Medicare for All that really needed correcting. The good news is we correct that on a daily basis. So what we're gonna do is $1,000 gets membership not only to Jake, but to his entire production team. And some of the costs are based on how many people are in their production teams, how many are in their teams overall. So the morning shows and the late night shows have a huge staff. Some of the cable news guys have a smaller staff. So we're gonna get it to their bookers, to their executive producers, et cetera. And look, even if all 20 on Jake Tapper's team don't listen to the Young Turks every day, even though they got the membership, or even if Jake Tapper himself doesn't listen, 3 out of those 20 start listening and it gets into the bloodstream. And it makes a giant difference. So that's how you can get the progressive message out. It is certainly a unique idea. And by the way, we're gonna do our best to deliver it to all of these people. And so we're gonna make our best efforts to do it. If for some reason we can't reach one of these particular teams, then we'll contact you if you're giving over $1,000 and we'll try to figure out who else to give it to in the media. So, and once you do it, if you fill out, after you give the money, a pop-up will come, and if you fill that out with your name, I will read your name on air. Filling that out says, hey, it's okay. You can give and not fill out your last name. That's totally okay, then we won't read it. But if you do fill out your last name, we'll read it on air, and forever, you will be the person who gave Jake Tapper and his team TYT membership. And if they start then quoting progressive ideas that they heard through that, that's totally because of you, 100% because of you. And we're gonna go one by one, and we will have other media figures, and once Jake Tapper comes off the board, we'll put new ones on. So by the time some of you are watching this, he might already be gone, and there might be other media figures there. And so lay claim to these folks and get them a strong progressive message. That same reporter said, well, the good thing about you guys is you're the fighting left. And that's exactly what we are. And we need to have the mainstream media realize that, and for young journalism students and for people going to college as well. So tyt.com/amplify. Let's all go to this, as always with the Young Turks, together. Thank you. Okay, I'm excited. And as soon as Jake Tapper comes off the board, we're gonna tell you guys, and we're gonna put 5 new guys up. Okay, so find out who the 5 are when somebody takes Tapper. That's a $1,000 package, okay? All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. Donald Trump's recent efforts toward the migrant caravan approaching the border proved that his fear-mongering prior to the midterm elections was nothing more than a political stunt. Here's the stunt that I was talking about.
A large group of people, they call it a caravan.
Evidence that there are terrorists as part of this caravan.
You know what you should do, John? Go into the middle of the caravan, take your cameras and search, okay?
As the caravan, and look, that is an assault on our country.
You're gonna find MS-13, you're gonna find Middle Eastern, you're gonna find everything.
I'm talking to a lot of your people, and they're going to form a wall, different kind of a wall, until we get the other one built. We need a wall built fast, fast.
Now, we did not find MS-13, we did not find Middle Eastern, but what we did find is that Donald Trump exploited vulnerable migrants in order to rile up his base and get them to prevent Democrats from taking over the House. Well, that political ploy did not work, and even though Trump decided to take advantage of our military and use 5,800 troops, send them to the border as part of this stunt, he is now deciding to send them back because everyone's acknowledged that this migrant caravan is not really a threat. So a new report indicates that the 5,800 troops who were rushed to the southwest border amid Trump's pre-election warnings about a refugee caravan will start coming home as early as this week, just as some of those migrants are beginning to arrive.
That's unbelievable, man. So look, everybody knew that it was a stunt, except conservative voters. They really believed it.
Yeah, they were peeing in their pants at home. Like, oh my God, the migrants are coming. All those vulnerable women and children. All that Middle Eastern.
Right, and so I'm gonna ask a question to you conservative voters in a second about that. But you were the only suckers who actually believed that. But a normal politician would wait. They'd wait a couple of weeks. Maybe they'd make a couple of arrests and do a photo op at the border, and they say, "Look at our troops protecting the homeland, et cetera." And then, like A month later, they'd pull back the troops because it was always a political stunt. But Donald Trump, he's amazing in a sense. One, because he's brazen. Two, and I just, having read so many of these stories at this late date, figured out something new about him. He doesn't care about hypocrisy. Why? Because he was never held accountable his whole life.
And he's not being held accountable right now. Sorry to interrupt you, but the reason why he's brazen is because his base doesn't care. They don't care.
And his dad didn't care. He bailed him out from 6 different bankruptcies. So to him, he's like, well, so what if I'm a hypocrite? What difference does it make? There's never any consequences. And so, I've never told this story before, and I'm going to tell it in a post game. Either I'll tell it tonight in the Thanksgiving special or in a post game tomorrow, about an interaction I had with Al Jazeera that I've never told publicly. And it made me realize why folks like this react in the way that they do. Okay, so tyt.com/join, and you get all of our special coverages, the post games, etc. Where I'll talk more about that because it's going to take a little while to explain that, and it's a little controversial, but I want you guys to know it. Okay, back to Trump. So he says, all right, I sent the troops there. Election is over, even though the caravan is arriving right now, as Anna just told you. He's like, well, let's pull them back. It cost $200 million. So conservative voters, I have two questions for you. I thought you hated big government wasting your money. He just threw $200 million in the garbage because the caravan's arriving now and they're pulling back. They're not going to do anything about the caravan. And that's my second question to you. If you believe Donald Trump and you were in a panic, oh my God, it's an invasion, it's an infestation, they're coming. Well, he just screwed you because he's pulling out the troops that you thought were going to protect you. What happened to the infestation and the invasion? Don't you care about it, Donald Trump? No. You were just another sucker in another one of his scams, like Trump University and now this. He took your money, he burned it, he used our military as a political prop, and now brazenly rubs it in your face afterwards. Ha, idiots. You thought it was real? No, of course it was a political stunt. You know the military can't even arrest anybody inside our borders in a situation like that? So it was always a lie.
It was always a political ploy. It was always meant to use our soldiers as props. And mind you, many of them won't be back home in time for Thanksgiving. The first troops will start heading home in the coming days. All troops should be home by Christmas as originally expected. So again, there are thousands of troops who were sent to the border for no real reason other than to help Trump with his political messaging, and they're gonna miss Thanksgiving with their families as a result of his actions. And so what does Joni Ernst have to say about this? Because it has become abundantly clear that this was nothing more than a political stunt. So what is Ernst gonna say? What is her excuse for sending the troops to the border? Well, let's hear it.
You're a vet. Is deploying 6,000 troops to the border a good use of resources?
It does actually provide them an opportunity for real life training in their roles. Many of them, if they serve in logistics type positions, they will actually be doing those missions on the border. So it is a very good skill as someone who has commanded troops both in peacetime and in wartime to make sure that they keep their skills sharp. And so when they do deploy, they are in harm's way overseas, they know exactly how to support the men and women on the front lines.
So I don't know if you guys caught any of the reporting regarding the troops at the border. Many of them were bored out of their minds. Many of them were suffering in extreme heat. They were used and abused by the commander-in-chief for his own political stunt, plain and simple.
And there's a Republican senator pretending that it has some value as a training exercise. Training for what? They literally had no authority there and could not do anything even if they wanted to. And she knows that, and she doesn't care either. She's like, well, look, our voters are all ignorant, so we could just lie to them all day long. In fact, Donald Trump this Sunday, even though he knows he's ordering the troops back, said the US is ill prepared for this invasion and will not stand for it. Hey, bring the troops back. We're done with the elections. Who cares? The idiots bought it. My side showed up. We won. We lost most of them, but we won a couple of them based on them believing my lies. We're done with it, though. Wrap it up. Maybe some of them will get home by Christmas. troops. Who cares? I didn't visit the dead in Arlington National Cemetery. I didn't go visit the dead for our World War I heroes because it was raining. I've never been to a combat zone because, as the story today shows, former administration officials saying he is literally scared to go. He's afraid for his own life. But when it comes to using them as props, oh yeah, he'll do that all day long and burn your goodwill and your money while he's doing it.
Final part of the story that I want to draw some attention to. One of the media outlets that aided and abetted Donald Trump in fear-mongering about these migrants was, of course, Fox News, Fox and Friends in particular. And during the same broadcast, they both went after the mainstream media for not covering the migrant caravan enough. And then I want you to pay close attention to the very last portion of this following video. Take a look.
So obviously the networks were rallying to tell the true story of what's going on there.
Of course they were.
Can we see some of that?
ABC, 0 seconds about this in their news coverage yesterday. NBC, 0 seconds in their coverage, and CBS gave the story 21 seconds.
The Army Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, who's in charge of the deployment, told Politico that the mission is complete and they're going to start heading home as early as this week, and the rest will be done by December 15th, so that the U.S. military force on our southern border, it looks like the meter's running, and soon they'll be heading home.
No, but that's amazing. It was the same broadcast. It was the same episode of Fox and Friends. It starts off with, can you believe it? CBS, 0 seconds. They talked about the migrant caravan, 0 seconds. By the way, the troops are gonna be sent home because I guess the mission's over. Anyway, let's move on.
Well, can I ask them, what was the mission? If the mission was accomplished, they went there, arrived there before the caravan came, and now they're leaving just as the caravan is arriving. What was the mission? Because I'm curious, you said it was accomplished. The Republicans are famous for declaring mission accomplished when it wasn't. In this case, I don't even know what the mission was, other than a political stunt. That
So
Fox
sad.
News just aided and abetted there. They're really sad. They're pathetic little lackeys for the government. They must be so proud.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we have more news for you, including right-wingers essentially telling the state of California that we deserve the destruction that we experienced during the fire. We'll tell you who. And other.
Yeah, and then another not a congressperson, but a Republican politician who actually said much worse.
Yeah.
And look, a lot of progressives say, oh, they're offended by it. No. I'm gonna come at him, okay? Then he'll be offended by me. That's what we'll do when we would come back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.